Good afternoon. Welcome to another City Daily. My name's Naomi. I'm a bit of a nomad when it comes to City Church, having been to Bradley Stoke, Cottam, and now I'm currently part of the Fish Pond site. Today I'm going to focus on a well-known expression by Tolkien. In the Fellowship of the Ring, we're introduced to a hobbit named Bilbo. Bilbo has just celebrated his 11th birthday. Outwardly, he looks amazing for his age, but inwardly, he's really struggling. When talking with his friend Gandalf, he says, "I feel thin, sort of stretched like butter scraped over too much bread. This can't be right. I need a change or something." When you aren't feeling your best, it is often reflected in your everyday life, perhaps not outwardly, but inwardly. This visual given by Bilbo can point to their either not having enough butter or having too much bread. I often find myself facing days or week when I'm feeling exceptionally busy, running full pace to meet demand at my work, raising my kids as best that I can, writing my book, and even trying to stay on top of a home that feels like it gets messy and disorganized way too quickly. I can very much feel that my energy that I had, both physically and mentally, has depleted really quickly. I didn't have enough butter to cover my bread. It's at this point of feeling so low on energy, it can be so tempting to sit down at the end of the day and just put on some mind-numbing Netflix. Although there's nothing wrong with this, more often than not, I've actually found this doesn't really replenish me. It's just a momentary pause within my busyness. In the scriptures, we can see that Jesus would often retreat to rest, to spend time with his Father in prayer. He had a relationship with God, just as we are called to have a relationship with God too. In Isaiah 40:29, it says, "He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak." I realize in my busyness that the majority of the time what I truly need is a strengthening in my spirit and not a temporary pause. For me, I find sitting down on my keys and playing songs on Spotify and actually having a time of worship and prayer is how my strength is renewed. I admit that when I'm tired out, it can almost feel unnatural, and sometimes it takes a little bit of effort to get to this. But in coming to God and spending time with him, you will soon realize that you do draw strength from him, just as Jesus did when he withdrew himself from everyone else and went into solitude to spend time with God. The second problem isn't having too much bread. Sometimes there can be too much for our energy to go into. Spending our butter too thin across so much bread can be seen in many different ways. From keeping busy, it can deflect from how we're truly feeling on the inside when we stop. Perhaps it's a case of taking on too much, not being able to say no, wanting to be seen or used, or feeling guilty when we don't have our energies on helping other people. The problem with spreading ourselves too thin is that we are less likely to make an impact in the areas that really truly matter most. Doing a great job in one thing is far better than doing a good enough job at many. Sure, at the end of the day, the job gets done, but the ability to leave a memorable impact is far, far less. The butter is too thin for the meal to be truly delighted in. Maybe you feel unable to deal smaller portions of bread at this time. Remind yourself not only does he give you strength and strength to all the weary, but in Psalm 16:11, it says that he makes known the path of life. In his presence there is fullness of joy. At his right hand are pleasures forevermore. When you are feeling weak and overwhelmed, draw near to God, not only to receive strength, to find a fullness of joy. Going back to the lovable hobbit Bilbo, he carried the Ring of Power for over 60 years. Over that time, he felt the burden of it. He felt the weight whilst he carried it in his everyday life. Granted, at 11 years old, he looked really great, but the ring's effect on Bilbo's inner being was far deeper and more troubling. As Bilbo prepares to leave for the Shire for this one last adventure, Gandalf suggests that his friend leaves the ring behind. Although Bilbo agrees at first, he lashes out in anger. He does this because the ring has slowly worked to take possession of him. It does not want him to release it on him. In the same way, the enemy would much rather see you busy yourself and be consumed by works, feeling overwhelmed, and in so doing preventing you from focusing on what matters most and making you feel reluctant to spend time in God's presence in the midst of your tiredness, which is actually just making things far more overwhelming and relying on your own strength to carry on. The picture of butter scraped across too much bread could represent not just a thinning of physical nature, but also an emotional, mental, and spiritual nature too. Perhaps your mind is consumed with things that are making you anxious, consuming your energy as they seemingly possess your waking thoughts. Philippians 4:6-7 reminds us, don't fret or worry. Instead of worrying, pray. Let petitions and praises shape your worries into prayers, letting God know your concerns. Before you know it, a sense of God's wholeness, everything coming together for good, will come and settle you down. It's wonderful what happens when Christ displaces worry at the center of your life. It was only after being challenged by his good friend Gandalf was Bilbo able to leave that ring behind and release its immediate hold on him. But we do see later that there were lasting effects from carrying that burden. So my challenge to you today is, what areas do you feel stretched? Have you been feeling too tired or busy to draw strength on God? Is there anything inwardly or outwardly that can be released and given over to God? What is draining you of your energy? In the Message translation of Matthew 11:28-30, Jesus says, "Are you tired, worn out, burdened on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you will recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest, walking with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay any heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you will learn to live freely and lightly." Father, I pray for everyone that's watching that feels burdened or just weighed down or feeling like their butter is not spreading across the bread as it should. I pray they're able to evaluate what's going on in their lives and just think about what energy is being consumed. I pray that they can draw strength on you when they come into your presence in worship and prayer. I pray that in coming to you, they find a joy that just fills their heart wholly. I pray that you can make light the things that they're not meant to be doing in their lives, that they can lay them down easily, knowing that you are in control of their lives and you are guiding them. I pray with those people that feel they can't lay things down. I pray that you give them a strength continuously throughout their every day, that in coming to you every single day in that relationship, they find that renewal of strength. I will end on John 14:27, where in talking about the Spirit, Jesus says, "I am leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart, and peace I give isn't fragile like the peace the world gives. Don't be troubled and don't be afraid."